From the Empire State to the Golden Gates, this is QuadRadio USA.
Cool. Oh, yeah.
Now, with all the dirt from the world of ATV motocross and GNCC racing, here's Mr. 10 Seconds, Rodney Tomlin.
And a good evening to everyone as we welcome you along to QuadRadio USA and tonight's QuadRadio Legends Globecast through QuadRadio.com. Welcoming you out on behalf of our friends at, of course, none other than Tire Balls, the high-performance, flat-proof tire inflation system. Contact Tire Balls rep Pat McGuire. You can email him at, of course, pat.offroad@gmail.com. You can access that email through the top banner on QuadRadio.com. And don't forget, 2013 sponsorships are being awarded right now, so you want to email Pat some information about that, so be sure and do so. Also want to say thanks to our friends over at Impact Solutions, your factory-authorized Elka suspension service dealer there in Parkersburg, West Virginia. Phone them up 304-863-0025. You can also find out more about those folks online at ImpactSolutionsATV.com. Also saluting SSI Decals once again for the great stickers and banners and all the great things that we'll be giving away in the upcoming 2013 season. Tonight's guest, none other than the pioneer of utility ATV racing himself, one Mr. Mike Penland. And we'll be talking with Mike and some really great stories about, how it all started, where it all came from, and what exactly is going on right now in Mike Penland's career. We'll have that and more coming up here on QuadRadio in just a moment.
Looking for a way to take your ride to the next level? Inflate your tires with Tire Balls and conquer any terrain on Earth without worrying about tire punctures and flats. Never get stopped by a flat tire again with Tire Balls' virtual flat-proof tire system. Improve suspension, improve traction and handling, and enjoy stability you've never known before. Tire Balls has revolutionized the off-road world, evening the playing fields and giving riders more confidence to tackle those tough obstacles. Tire Balls is perfect for ATV, UTV, motorcycle, motocross, military, industrial, and agricultural vehicles. Get all your Tire Ball and Tire Ball accessories today by calling 724-272-2998 or by emailing pat.offroad@gmail.com. Mention QuadRadio and receive an additional 10% off on already great price products. 2013 sponsorship opportunities can be emailed to the same address. Tire Balls, any terrain, anytime, no flats.
And welcome back to QuadRadio here as we get set for a QuadRadio Legends here on a Thursday evening. And sorry for anybody that was tuned in and we dropped you there for a second. We hopefully will be back up live and throughout the rest of the broadcast. I do want to let everyone know that if something happens and we do lose some internet tonight, I am backing everything up and we will have it up on replay. If not later tonight, at least first thing tomorrow morning. We will not hopefully lose anything of what we've got ready to tackle here in just a few moments in QuadRadio Legends as we welcome a legend himself. And, of course, that is none other than one Mike Penland, who is, just wrapped up his 21st year of racing, getting ready to roll into 22 if I understand things correctly. And we say good evening and welcome to Mike Penland. Mike, how's things going, buddy?
Well, quite well. Thank you for having me.
Hey, man, not a problem. I told you I've been wanting to get you on here, and we've been kind of amping things up as far as QuadRadio is concerned. And, we're getting ready to really kick things off. And I kind of really was thinking I want to wait until after the first of the year before I really delve into this and really start talking into the big players and the legends like yourself. But I was writing Quickfill today for the GNCCRacing.com website, which is a website that I contribute to, working with the GNCC and so forth. And there was some things that came up. I talked to some people, and they told me that they knew for sure you're going to be racing, I think, the Maverick next year in the UTV series. But they didn't know what you were planning on as far as the ATV series was concerned. And I was like, I bet you probably some other people are wondering that, and there's no better way to find out than to call the man himself. So that's exactly what we have done. We've got the man that I deem the pioneer of utility ATV racing, Mike Penland. Mike.
That's pretty big talk for such a feller as myself, but thank you. Yeah.
Well, not a problem, man. So, what is going on? I mean, what is the word here? Are you going to be running the Maverick next year in the UTV series?
Yeah, I should have one in just a few days, and get another one later. But yeah, I've got a contract with Can-Am for the side-by-side racing, and but the ATV racing they're not helping me.
Ah, I see. So one of those things. Now, with that, do you have any plans of racing the ATVs, or are you just going to do a solely UTV career next year, or have you even decided yet? Am I delving into waters that I shouldn't be delving into right now?
No. Lord willing, I'm going to try. I've got some help a little bit and need more, but yeah, I'm going to try to do them all. If there's any way, the possibly not the Florida race, but hopefully the rest of them, because the Georgia race is only 125 miles from my house, and the North Carolina race is about 150 or 60, and then the South Carolina race is 135. So those are pretty close.
Right.
That's each way. Yeah.
Right. So those will be probably pretty good ones to want to go try to go out and tackle, man. I'm sorry, but I am standing beside myself right now because introducing you and knowing what you've done for this sport as far as utility ATV racing is concerned, there should be a grandfather clause in every manufacturer out there that if Mike wants to ride our machine, just give it to him. There's no questions asked.
That would be a blessing, but I've been doing it a long time and had to help a lot of years, and most people's budgets are tightening up, so I understand it. Just don't like it.
Right, it is a tough pill to swallow, I'm sure, but you seem pretty optimistic about it, man. I think that's pretty cool, and that's great. And Mike, I call you a pioneer, and I say, hey, man, this guy deserves a grandfather clause in any manufacturer out there on the market. And the reason I say that is because you've got a long storied history in ATV racing. As you said, you're getting ready to start your 22nd season of racing. And that, my friend, is a pretty storied romance, I think, in and of itself right there, man. Yeah.
I only got the good Lord to thank. I never raced an ATV until I was 37 years old, so there's a lot going on, but I'm not a young man anymore, and done a lot of things, done a lot of racing.
Well, how old are you, Mike?
I'm 59 right now. I'm 59 and a half.
59 and a half, wow.
Yeah. In June, if the Lord lets me live, I'll be 60.
Wow, in June. That's right. We celebrate your birthday at the Snowshoe GNC each year, don't we?
June 23rd.
Yep. You and Miss Rita, I think, celebrate around the same time, don't you?
Yeah, I think Rita's is just a few days before mine or a few days after. Yeah, it's only just a few days, give or take.
Yeah, I think that's pretty neat, man. We ought to have one big birthday bash for you guys up there. Well, Mike, before we dive into the history of the Pioneer, and we find out why I call you that name and put so much regard to you and what you've accomplished in this sport. Let's talk a little bit about what took place here not too long ago. The Baja, man. From what I understand, you competed, and you're like a 5-time champion of the Baja, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Well, I won it 5 times with my team, and with Carl Villa's team, that makes it 6 1,000s we've won. Yeah.
Wow, you've won 6 1,000 Bajas. Yeah. Wow, man, that is.
The team and I. Me and the team and I, however you want to say, yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, even being a part now, each year that you've won, have you gone with the same teams most of the time, or is it?
No. It's hard to get people that have the money to go and the time to go and want to go. So it's I've had this person a time or two and that person a time or two, and Carl's had me for 3 of them, and so we just play mix and match. Who's ever, like I said, got the got the inclination and the money and the time. That's a big deal. We're gone a long time.
You are. Tell me a little bit about the Baja. I mean, itself. What does that entail? I mean, because I know that we talk either a 500 or 1,000-mile race, depending on which Baja you happen to participate in. But from what I understand, it's a no holds barred, almost a winner take all, fight for your life to the end type affair.
It's this year was 1,121 miles.
Wow.
And yeah, and of course it depends where you live. But from my house, past Dallas, past Fort Worth, past Weatherford, Texas, about Midland, Texas, or something. And you figure driving that far, and then doing that in the dirt, and not a dirt road. It's rough as a cop. It's just whoops and cactus and rocks, and of course there ain't no trees, so you don't have to worry about trees and limbs. But it's just some of the nastiest terrain you've ever seen in your life. And in a GNCC, we'll have whoops, okay?
Right.
But there might be 40 miles of whoops.
Really?
Yeah, and they're not them whoops that are a foot high. You're looking at 3 foot and 4 foot whoops, and the little ones are 2 foot. And then you'll have rocks, and you won't even be on dirt. You'll go forever on rocks, just rocks. And the Baja, for the most part, is no harder than anything anybody's ever done, but there's just miles and miles and miles and miles of it. And, of course, it gets dark about 5:30 in the afternoon for the 1,000, and I can promise you, when you're at 3 o'clock in the morning out in the desert, it's really dark. And the sun comes up, about 5:45 or something, kind of comes up, and it's pretty good daylight about 6:30. And you go, once you start the race, you don't stop. You just keep going, and it's really, really fun. I just can't tell you how enjoyable it is. It's just work like mad, but and I can't even tell you. I mean, right now I've already started working. If I get to go to the 13 1,000, I'm already starting working. Thinking and trying to put stuff together. Yeah, it's a big tough thing, and I just people help. Us racers, we pool our money, and it's $3,020 to enter the race this year.
Wow.
Yeah, just to enter, $3,020.
That's a lot of cabbage, man.
Yeah, and then my truck, just in fuel, is 50 cents a mile to drive it. Just fuel, and because we didn't make it, we had it like 550 miles into the race, we had over a 3.5 hour lead, and the bike got hurt, hit a great big ugly rock, and we worked on it. It overheated. We had to put a new fuel tank in it. It melted the fuel tank, and the radiator had to put a new radiator in it, and had to put a new fan in it, and the bike was so hot that it melted even the spark plug wires. So you had the black insulation, and then a little skinny naked copper wire went for a while, and then all of a sudden you had black insulation again, and the wires had just melted off the bike. We had to tape all that up, and when I cranked it, the timing chains were just, the bike sounded like a pea thrasher. So I had an idea what it was, pulled the valve cover off, looked down in the back cylinder, and the cam chain adjusters had gotten so hot. They're a plastic thing with a metal tip on it, kind of like a thimble, and they melted off and fell down in the bottom of the motor.
Wow.
And so I had to take and adjust them manually. They're self-adjusting, but I had to adjust them manually to get them up tight, and got the motor. It sounded great, cranked and run perfect, but it only went another 35 miles. And what had happened is the impeller. The water pump impeller is plastic, and it screws on a metal shaft, and the engine turns that metal shaft and turns the impeller. Well, what had happened is the threads on the inside of that plastic impeller melted off.
Oh,
so
man.
the shaft was turning, and the impeller wasn't. And the bike got so hot, the motor, it didn't stick or seize. You just have to take a big prise bar and turn the motor over. The electric starter won't touch it. So,
wow.
At 585, our race was over, and so I only went 6,500 miles in my truck. So
to have that happen. Now, Mike,
Yeah.
Mike, let me ask you something, man. I mean, you've been doing this for a long time, and obviously it costs a lot to do this. What do you get out of this, man? I mean, in reality, I mean, you're not. I mean, I'm not trying to take anything away from you. You are a rich man as far as what you have in your life and the blessings that you have in your life. But I would say, monetarily, you're probably just like anybody else out there, man. I mean, you got your struggles just like everybody else, or you wouldn't be even mentioning the fact that it costs 50 cents a mile to drive that truck.
Yeah, it's it's about the only thing I know how to do, kind of. You know, and it's a lot of fun. When I tell people you go to a GNCC race or a Baja race like that, and it's not as good as a family reunion, and it's not as good as a church homecoming, but it's almost like a family reunion. You get to see people each race, and sometimes once a year, and it's just fun, you know, to talk to the people and listen to what they've got to see. I mean, let me give you, for instance, when I first started going to the GNCC's, John Ayers, John's boy was just a little snotty-nosed boy, just little. I mean, he was, I don't know, 2 or 3, and he didn't even have a bicycle. It was kind of like a bicycle, but it didn't have pedals. And he, about every 5 or 6 feet, he'd crash. He'd just fall over. And now, look at him. Look at what he is now. His sister's just a little older. She's married now. You know,
yeah.
I've seen that happen.
Yeah.
And
his sister's got a baby, too, by the way.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, they had a little boy here, actually right around the end of the season, as a matter of fact. So congratulations to them, by the way.
Yes, I'm glad for them. I don't know her man that well, but her, I just love her. She was just a little child. And this is good. She got her own baby now.
Yep.
Good.
Kind of crazy how that all works out, Mike. And I tell you, man, I mean, yeah, so obviously you have gained a lot out of this, and you know, I call you a pioneer, and there's a reason why I say that, and I do want to get into that. But before I get into that, I got to ask you, is racing all you do, and is that basically all you've done the last 20 years or so? No. Since 1975, I've had a shop called Pikes. In the county I live in, there ain't no people in it. So I used to just work on motorcycles because ATVs weren't invented. And then ATVs came along in 73 with the Suzuki LT 125, I think it was called. And did I say 73? If I did, I meant 83. 1983 is when they came out. And I started working on them, and I worked, you know, got married, and I started working on lawnmowers or chainsaws. And then a couple years after married, we had our first child, and so then now I'm working on lawnmowers. And a couple of years later, we had another child, and I'm working on weed eaters, and you know, so then a couple of years later, we have another child. So I'm working on rototillers and anything, you know, whatever I can do to try to make a living. And the Lord has blessed. We haven't had much, but we haven't lacked a lot either, so it's been good. But you know, Mike, you know, it's probably a good thing that you stopped having kids, or you'd probably be a computer engineer by now or something. A rocket scientist.
No, I don't even know how to turn a computer on.
But go on. I'm sorry. Go ahead. So
my girls, they do that for me. The computers, and you know, the people will type into it, and they'll call me on telephone and ask me, and I tell them on the phone, and then they type back on the computer with an answer and stuff. So it's I don't know. I haven't been able to learn how to use a computer.
You will someday, man. Maybe whenever you decide to retire someday. But anyway, see, where did I interrupt you in that thought and that conversation there? I know we were talking about
what am I getting out of it?
Yeah, What do you do for a living right now other than race?
Yeah, twist branches. I used to sell a lot of hot rod parts and stuff that with the Can-Am, honestly, you don't need as many hot rod parts. As when I was with Kawasaki, I sold lots of parts to hop them up, and before the 650, that had lime green fenders. Kawasaki made lime green fenders for me to sell, and I supplemented my income with that, and cams and pipes and air filters, and I've got that stuff, the cams and pipes and air filters and clutch parts, and hop up stuff for Can-Ams. I've got that stuff, but with the economy the way it is, a lot of that stuff just doesn't sell well. So.
Wow, sounds like you could have a Christmas special or something, man.
Yeah, it'd be good. But people don't have money to buy nothing, so.
Yeah, I know the feeling, man. Believe me. But
yeah.
Well, anyway, so you kind of have a bike shop. You do some tinkering around, I'm sure, in the off season and stuff on motors and things like that. Or do you even have an off season, man? I mean, it seems like you're constantly doing something.
Yeah, I was racing Saturday, so. And I probably won't race again, maybe January sometime. And hopefully I'll have the new Maverick here in a few days, and I'll go out in the woods and start beating around the woods on that thing, trying to learn it.
There you go. Well, all right, let's dive into it, man. Let's talk about the Pioneer Mike Penland, man. I mean, you started racing at 36 years old. Let's talk a little bit about that. What got you into ATV racing? Because, I mean, honestly, knowing you seem like a good old boy, a Southern boy. You go to church. It seems like you probably grew up in church because the way you talk about church a lot. And I would figure that somebody like you would probably spend a lot of those Sundays at the meetings. You know what I mean? How did you ever get introduced into ATV racing like that?
Well, a good question. I raced motorcycles when I was younger, and when I got married. I married in 1976, and I raced a few times in 76, and then 77, I raced twice, and my dad got killed, and he helped finance my racing. I didn't have enough money, so from 77 on, for about whatever it was, like 12 years, the only time I rode a motorcycle was up and down the road testing them. I never, I didn't go in the woods and play or nothing. I was just working, having children and raising children and paying on houses and shops and cars and trucks, that kind of stuff. And then I got it was used, a 1985 XR 350R, and I rode it. Started going to the woods a little bit and liked it. And I said I want to race, but I didn't want to race. Motocross because it was all in big doubles and triples and stuff, and
yeah,
I didn't want that. I was about probably 34 or 5 then, and I said I want to race. Told a friend of mine, and I said I want to race, and I said, but I want it to be long. I want it. I don't want a 20-minute moto or something. I said I want to race a wow, something to kind of toughen me up, and I said. And I don't want to race on Sunday. I'd rather go to church. And so, we're looking and talking and listening, and he comes to me one day and he says, I found a race. And I said, well, tell me about it. He said, it's called the Grand National Cross Country. I said, what's that? He said, then you race 2.5 hours on the ATVs. He said, it's 2.5 hours long. I said, well, that's good. And he said, and it was over in South Carolina, right there at I just forgot his name. Beer and Hammocks.
Oh, Beer
and Hammocks.
Oh, okay.
And supposedly the track was in North and South Carolina, in and out, and that was like July or something of 90. Okay, so he said it's on Saturday. I said, well, that's good, and He said, it's, 2.5 hours. He said, that's good. And he said, it's over there in South Carolina. I said, that's good. He said, there's just one problem. I said, what's that? He said, it's ATVs. I said, well, I got a four-wheeler. I had a Honda 300 four-wheel drive, 88 model. And so we loaded up and went over there. And like I said, that was like July or something of 90. And
was there even a class at that time for utility ATVs?
Yes, they did. And see, I went and I was just going to sign up some class, and they said, well, we've got a four-wheel drive class. I said, well, mine's four-wheel drive. So I signed up, and it went pretty well. And I just, if I remember right, I didn't win. I hit a tree and bent a tie rod, and it just, that 300 Honda, it even sticks. I couldn't take a big limb. I couldn't straighten it out hardly. And hot, a great day. Was it hot there? It was just more than hot. So anyway, came home, and I didn't know if I could still race. It's been so long since I'd raced a motorcycle or something, and I said, well, I'm going to try it. And then the 91 season rolls around, and I started the 91 season, and like I said, I raced Saturdays on ATVs because the bike races were Sunday, and I'd rather go to church. So that's what I did. And then we had a few races, one or something, occasionally two a year that would be on Sunday, and I just wouldn't go to those. And this one year, it was like now, I think you had to do 8 races instead of 9 to be able to be a champion. And I've won a couple national championships, and I'll remind me about that in a minute. I'll tell you something. But this one year, I seen the schedule come out, and I see Dave Coombs, Big Dave, at the Indy show. And I seen him, and I started walking up to him, and he just ducked his head down. And I said, Dave, we've only got like 7 races on Saturday. He said, Mike, I didn't realize when I made the chart, the listing, whatever you want to call it. He said, but that was the year we had like the ISDE here in America.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I better not say that. Anyway, our men that were going to race the ISDE, they needed to race, in the east, and then fly to, Washington or Oregon or something like that, and race on Sunday. So Dave, manipulated the races to accommodate them so we could be in the ISDE also. And he said, Mike, I didn't know it. I didn't know that there was going to be. I said, well, I guess I just won't win the championship this year, and so I was really bummed, and I was praying about it. And anyway, the race came up in Florida, and I was down there, and I was in church. We raced Monday or Tuesday, whatever it was, and I was down there. That was in Ocala then, and so Sunday morning I went to church, and I'm so tickled to tell you, but I'm almost ashamed. I was in church, and it was just good service, good singing and preaching stuff, mm-hmm. and the Lord started dealing with me right there. Mm-hmm. And I got a tithe envelope down, and I started writing, the thoughts that were coming in my head. And I went to Dave, after church Sunday morning and before church Sunday night. I said, I want to talk to you, Dave. He said, yeah, what is it? And I said, I want to tell you about something. And I said, I don't want you to answer now. I said, I just want to tell you about it. And he said, what is it? I said, well, I said, the Lord's been dealing with me. I said, what I want to do is have a service, a little service on Sunday morning. And I said, we won't take up no offering or something. I said, if somebody wants to sing or play the guitar and people sing, I said, that's good. I said, if we do take up money, it's for somebody that's hurt or something, And I said, we'll go over in the corner of the pit somewhere where we won't buy. And he's going, let's do it. I said, no. I said, and we want to do this. And now let's do it. I said, I told you, I just wanted you to listen for, and think about it a while. And So anyway, he said, he turned to somebody and said, "Where's our first Sunday race?" And it was in, they're close to Clarksburg, West Virginia, the wilderness race. And he said something. He said, "Oh, they've got a large upper room." Boy, and the hair on the back of my neck stood up, And I'm going to tell you something about Dave here in a minute. But he said, "Yeah, we'll have that." Well, anyway, that was the first Saturday or Sunday race that I went to, and we had a little service up in that. They had a huge barn-shaped building, had concession, and you signed up, if I remember, for the race there and stuff, and had the service upstairs, and a lot of folks, and it was good. But I told Dave, I said, the races started at noon then, and, there's always 5 or 10 after. Sometimes 15 after 12. And I was talking to Dave before the church service deal, and I said, what I might do, Dave, is go to church Sunday morning somewhere, and if I get back in time, I race, and if I get back almost in time, if it's only been a few minutes, I'll race. And anyway, we had the church service, and it was a few minutes later, 20, 30 minutes later, whatever, and Dave says to me, "How much time do you need, Mike?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "How much time do you need?" I said, "For what?" He said, "So you can go to church." He said, "I'll hold the race till you get back." And I said, "No, Dave." I said, "We had a service all this morning, so I won't be going to another church." He was going to hold up the whole race, and there wasn't a morning and afternoon. And everybody raced at the same time, and he was going to do that.
Wow.
He was going to hold up the whole race until I got back from church.
Man, he was a special man, was he not?
Oh, he liked me. He really liked me, and I sure did him. Yeah, I was just tickled to know him. It was fun. I'd hang on that water truck a lot and talk, and then after a while, we got to know each other. He'd have me crawl in, and I'd talk to him on the Saturday mornings before the race and stuff. Let's see, and I wanted to tell you something else about Dave. Oh, I know what it was. I know what it was.
What's that? Well, I'll tell you what, hold that thought right there, Mike. Now is a good time to take a break. If you hold that thought, we'll be right back with more from right here on Quad Radio Legends on a Thursday night with the pioneer of utility ATV racing, one Mike Penland, here in just a moment. This is Quad Radio.
Looking for a way to take your ride to the next level? Man. Inflate your tires with tire balls and conquer any terrain on Earth without worrying about tire punctures and flats. Never get stopped by a flat tire again with Tire Ball's virtual flat-proof tire system. Improve suspension, improve traction and handling, and enjoy stability you've never known before. Tire Balls has revolutionized the off-road world, evening the playing fields and giving riders more confidence to tackle those tough obstacles. Tire Balls is perfect for ATV, UTV, motorcycle, motocross, military, industrial, and agricultural vehicles. Get all your Tire Ball and Tire Ball accessories today by calling 724-272-2998 or by emailing pat.offroad@gmail.com. Mention Quad Radio and receive an additional 10% off on already great price products. 2013 sponsorship opportunities can be emailed to the same address. Tire Balls, any terrain, anytime, no flats.
And welcome back to Quad Radio Legends on a Thursday, December 13th, 2012, as we are with none other than a legend and pioneer himself, Mr. Mike Penland. And we say thanks once again to great folks like Tire Balls for being a proud sponsor of Quad Radio programming here. Also, thanks to our friends not only at Tire Balls, of course, but also at Elka Suspension's factory authorized service center called Impact Solutions. You can find them on the World Wide Web at impactssolutionsatv.com. You can also find them on Facebook at Facebook, of course, and then when you're on there, just search Impact Solutions. And also, special shout-out to our friends tonight at SSI Decals and SSIDecals.com. Be sure and check those guys out for your next set of graphics. And back to one Mike Penland, as we say, good evening, welcome back, Mike, here to Quad Radio and Legends. It's an honor and a privilege once again to have you back. And we were talking about a legend that helped create a lot of legends himself, and that was one Big Dave Coombs there. And I know you had some pretty unique stories to talk about that gentleman about. And I know that you were remembering some stories there. So let's pick up right where we left off. You and Dave, you were really starting to get pretty tight. You guys had hung a lot. I mean, he was obviously a pretty remarkable man. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, he listened. You know, I was just a nobody, and he'd listen to me. Or Bob Sloan was a big dude then. He'd listen to Bob Sloan. You know, or he'd listen to anybody and everybody. And I remember the little ads used to be in the four-wheeler magazines. You know, win a free trip to the Bahamas. You know, they didn't say Love Boat, but it was a Love Boat deal, a cruise.
Yeah.
And I remember reading about them, and I'm racing and winning. You know, and over in the probably 2/3 through the season, I went to Dave and I said, the ads in the magazine said everything but like the 4x4 class or utility class. And I said, Dave, what's the deal? I said, everybody but my class. And he says, Mike, he said, you win. He said, you'll go. And so I won the championship, you know, that year that I started it, and I win. And I just don't enjoy tooting my own horn, but Dave told me, and I didn't realize it, but until I started racing, you'd go to this track, and there'd be a few people there with four-wheel drives, and you go to that track, you know, in another state, and there'd be a few people, and you go to another track, there'd be some people. But he said with me, when I started, I was at all the tracks every race. You know, virtually. When I told you just a bit ago, some of the Sunday races I didn't go to, but I was there, and people would come out so often to race me. You know, they'd say, you know, you're Mike Penland. I said, yeah, well, I'm here to race you. You know, and then this has happened so many times, and so many. I mean, hundreds of people would just come to the races. And you're Mike Penland. Yeah, I said, you know, I've read about you. I wanted to meet you, and you know, what an honor it is to somebody drive from Timbuktu to a race and just to shake your hand, look you in the eye, and say, you know, thank you.
Yeah.
I remember in one of the Third Wheels or whatever it was, I was. They were interviewing what did I like to eat. I said I like to eat beans and taters. You know, and you know, so many people they like lasagna and they like filet mignon and all them things. You know, and I like beans and taters pretty good. And I remember this one fellow came up and said, you're Mike Penland. I said, yeah. He said, I wanted to meet you. He said, anybody that likes beans and taters is my kind of man. You know, so that was good. Yeah, Dave, he made sure I got to go on the trip on the cruise, and I was honored.
Wow.
And there was a race that was canceled up there in Brownsville, Pennsylvania. It rained. We got there, you know, early Saturday morning, and Lord, Rodney, it had just rained and rained and rained, and when it come daylight, you know, I got up, walked around a little bit, and Dave canceled the race. He says, I hate to. He said, but I have to, and he said, you know, the creeks are so deep, you know, said Mike Penland can't even make them around this track. But he liked me, and I sure did like him. But that's what the GNCC's through the Lord helping me with Maxxis tires. I had a tire sponsor. They gave me 6 tires a year. You know, a set of tires and a spare front and a spare rear. And it was great. That was the first sponsorship I ever had. And I was just tickled, other than my dad, you know, when he was alive. And Maxxis had called me in 93. But let me back up. I was able then I was making enough money for the family and to race, and everything was good. And then the business slowed down. This is 95, the first part of 95. Business slowed down, and I couldn't really afford to do it. And my chronological order is backing up. Let me go to another story and remind me about this one.
Okay.
I raced first year, and it was great. Won the championship, and it was good. But I'd heard about something on Sundays in the motorcycle race that I liked, and so I come to the first race in '92, and Dave and John Ayers and others are traveling around, and it's on the loudspeaker. Good to see everybody here, and if you're back, we're glad you're here, and if you're a newcomer, we want to welcome you. And Dave and them were going around greeting people, and they said to me, come up to me, said, Mike, it's good to have you back. And I said, I'm glad to be here. And said, we're going to do something different this year. And I said, okay. Well, what had happened, it was in Waterford, Ohio, and toward the end of the 91 season, people would say, why are you here? And I said, I come to win. Why are you here, Mike? I come to win. And then they'd say, well, why are you here? I'm here to win. And in my mind, I'd say, I didn't come to get second. I came to win.
Right.
And people would say, you got to prefer your brother. The Bible talks about. I said, I don't think the Bible means let somebody else win. And when they would use that verse on me, I would use one over there in 2 Corinthians. It said, know ye which run in a race, run all, but one receiveth the prize. So run that you may obtain. so they said that doesn't talk about four-wheeler racing. I said, as much as your verse talks about letting somebody else win. But anyway, that day, pulled out on the track, the race started, and I finally get the lead and pulling a little lead, and I'm talking to myself, Rodney, and I'm saying, I'm here to win. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. I came to win. And the Lord God Almighty talked to me right there on that bike and said, you're here that I might be here. Okay, and what I'm saying is the Lord just works through people. He could ride in the clouds, in the sky with clouds. You must be born again. But he doesn't. He works through people.
Right.
And so now forward to the first race of 92. And Dave says, we're glad to have you here, John Ayers. Mike, welcome back, and blah, blah, blah. And said, we're going to do something different this year. I said, what's that? Said, we're going to start the races with prayer. And I said, wow, that's really good. The motorcycle races, they'd start with a prayer, and the ATV races, they didn't.
Huh.
And I said, boy, that's really good. And then they said, Mike, we want you to do it.
Ah.
So I mean, the sweat just busted out my forehead, and my knees were shaking, and I'm about ready to say, oh, no. And the Lord brought that back to my mind. You're here that I might be here.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I'll do it. So from the first race of 92 to about, 2003,
yeah,
I would pray before the races, and then, and I'm trying to think of his name. We got the chaplain.
Joey.
The fella from down in Metter, Georgia.
Yeah, Joey Holloway.
Yeah, Joey Holloway. I couldn't think of his name. And then he done it. And when Joey got a church, started pastoring church, our starter's been doing it. So,
Yep. Ricky's been doing it since then.
And I've done it a few times, but
yeah.
That's kind of a quick history. But Dave Coombs said that I'd made the utility class what it was because I was there at each race, and instead of so helter-skelter, somebody here coming and somebody there, and but then people started coming regular, and it's pretty big right now.
Yeah, well, Mike, I mean that's funny. I mean, it's even right now. I mean, I got into things as far as GNCC was concerned was around the mid-90s, 95, 90. Well, probably 90. It was 95, 96 somewhere. I can't remember exactly which year it was, but it was one of those years. And then I did a few hit and misses on and off here and there. I went to Clarksburg. I went to Hard Rock. I went to Starvation Point, Brownsville, High Point, Matthews Farms, all those, a lot of those around that area. And then, I guess it was 2002 before I actually started doing the whole series with John. And I really then is whenever I actually became mainly acquainted with you at that particular point in time. But, even as late as 2005, and I think even since then, you brought the people out. I remember, and I've chuckled about this so many times, you probably heard this story 100 times too, but Michael Swift in 2005, I was working with Gear Media, who was the producer of Racer TV whenever it first came out on OLN or the Outdoor Life Network or whatever it was they were doing back then, before it became Versus and before it became NBC Sports. And I remember we were setting up cameras and everything, and this young skinny punk, he comes trotting over. He's over hanging out in his tent, like, "What y'all doing?" And we was telling him, he's like, "You know what? Y'all let me wear one of them helmet cams right there, and I'll show you how to beat Mike Penland." Yeah. And lo and behold, I can't remember. I don't think he beat you. I think he ended up crashing trying to beat you. I think he might have passed you or something, but he was riding so wild that he might have taken himself out. I can't remember specifically, but yeah, I mean, that's the kind of, and look what you did for that guy right there, man. I mean, not only him, but his friends that traveled to the races with him, Cliff. I mean, Clifton, he's a record holder in his own, man. I mean, he's got his own rights and history books there of GNCC with all the wins and stuff that he's been able to accomplish since that time. And
absolutely.
I mean, pretty amazing stuff. But now, you were talking about 95. I want to start talking about some of the other things like Pikes Peak and stuff, because I think that's some pretty neat stuff to talk about as well. But you'd mentioned 95. Do you want to talk about something?
Oh, okay. Well, 93. What had happened it is, I might have said 95, but I meant 93. Money tightened up a little bit, and what I was talking about earlier was what the Lord had said, and I was praying, and sometimes when you're praying, unfortunately for me, they're mostly now lay me down to sleep kind of prayers, but this time I was praying and hooked up. I was praying, and the Lord was listening, and the Lord was hearing and doing. And I said, "Lord, I don't have enough money to race." And you said that I was there, that you'd be there. So that was like a Monday, and I was going to have to stop racing because I couldn't feed my family and race too. I couldn't do it. And so this is like Wednesday or something, maybe Thursday. Maxxis calls me. And they said, they talked and they wanted me to use their tire. I said, "Well, I can't. I've got another tire sponsor." I said, "Well, we'll give them to you." I said, "Well, they give them to me." "Well, we'll ship them to you free." I said, "They ship them to me free." And went back and forth some. and they said, "Would you try our tire?" I said, "I'll be glad to." I said, "Well, we'll send them to you, and we'll meet in the woods somewhere and test." And I don't want to sound ugly, but it was like, it's like when dogs meet. They were there to smell, to see if the magazines were telling the truth, or the way I rode, or was it just a bunch of talk.
Right.
So we met, and the boy had a 250 Honda race bike, and I followed him for a while, and he made a little boo-boo, and I went around and we just left. And so we come back and we're talking. And they want to take me out to eat, or he does, and he keeps hammering, "We want you to use our tires." I said, "I can't." And he got pretty straight with me, and I said, "Listen," I said, "would you want me to do you like you want me to do that other sponsor?" He hung his head and said no. And so we parted, and a week or two later, he calls me up. Would I meet with him in the woods again with another fella that raced more, and he had a Suzuki race bike, and I said, yeah. So we went out in the woods, and I followed him around and made a little boo-boo, and I passed him and went on. And that's when they really started pushing. You know, we want you to use our tires. We want you to use our tires. And I told him I can't race with them. I said, you know, we don't have a contract, you know, a paper contract, but we've got a handshake that's going to work. And so after several phone calls back and forth, they said, what would it take? And I said, it'll take money. And they said, how much? And I said, it'll take this much per race, this much per win, and this much per championship. And he says, we need it right. And so when I got my contract, they'd raised 2 of them out of the 3. I was selling myself too short. And
wow.
So that first race was coming up, and it was the Blackwater, the 93 Blackwater.
Mm.
And I had to call my other sponsor, tire sponsor, and explain to him. You know, I called him and said, I want to talk to you as a friend, not as a boss to an employee, and what is it? And I told him, and he didn't like it. You know, he was all hurt and everything. And I said, I called you to talk to you, so because I don't burn no bridges. I said, in case something doesn't work out. He says, Mike, you better call me, if anything. And we parted as friends, and we have been till now. And
great.
So the Blackwater comes up, and it's 93, and I win it. I'd done it in 91 and busted a tire. I had 28 holes in that one tire.
Wow.
And then in 92, I had this tremendous lead on the end of the first lap. I had like a 20-minute lead, and went about a quarter of a mile. And I was riding a Honda 300 4-wheel drive then, and they didn't get the swing arm when they welded it. The weld stuck to one part of the metal, but not to the other. And like I said, I went about a quarter mile, and the swing arm broke half in 2. And
wow.
So that put me out. And of course, we all know now 93 was the last Blackwater.
Right.
And so I won that race, and won it good, and I was on them Maxxis tires. And Maxxis had me on back covers of magazines, Dirt Wheels, and 3 and 4-wheel action, and that full-page, full-color ads.
Wow.
And they had the crowd at the 93 river crossing, you know, and then they had a little picture in the corner of me, you know, with just a hat on, just a picture of my face. And, of course, they had a picture of me on the bike with a helmet and junk. And that really helped right there. That I was the first person in history to have my full-page, full-color ad of me. Now, sometimes they'd have a quarter of a page with 4 riders or something, or they'd have a full page with black and white with 4 or 5 riders. But that was full color, full color ad, and that really, you know, people, other companies and stuff started seeing it, and that really helped. And,
wow.
What a blessing it was.
No doubt. Sounds like it. Sounds like a huge blessing, and
Yeah.
and God opened those doors for you. And you know what's really neat is that, you know, those doors that He opened, you know, to get you into the series, also led into, you know, Joey Holloway. Well, John Ayers doing it for a while, and Joey, and then of course to eventually Team Faith taking over the realms as far as church services are concerned in that realm. I think that's pretty unique and neat, and that's something that probably a backstory that nobody ever even realized or ever even would have considered or even thought about, man. I think that's pretty neat. And something else is, you know, you bring up the fact, you know, you get your picture, and, you know, here we are. You know, I'm sure you get the question a lot, Mike, what about the hat? What about the mustache?
Okay. I've never been a defiant person in some things, okay? Certain things, if I think they're right, you know, I'll just stand there and talk about it all day. But I was in high school, and you weren't allowed to have mustaches. So I didn't get in trouble in school and stuff like that. And I was 16 years old, had a heavy beard, and no mustache. And one day, Rodney, I said, "That's it. I'm not shaving it again." And that was, what is that, 43 years ago? And I've kept my word. I've never shaved my mustache since then. I've never trimmed it.
Wow.
Now, the part from my lips, the corner of my mouth down, I have.
Right.
But my mustache, I've never trimmed it one time.
Wow.
And I've never shaved it since I was 16. And most folks wouldn't know. I wouldn't know what I looked like with that one. My mom remembers what I looked like, but that's about the only person that remembers what I looked like without a mustache. My wife's never seen me without a mustache. But anyway, and the hat, I'm bald, and it just keeps that sun. I don't like the sun. I like it nice and cool or cold. I like to sleep where I can see my breath, and it ain't funny. and the hat, it just helps keep the sun off my head. That's what it is, and I got used to wearing it, and I wear it a lot.
Wow, that's pretty.
I got lots of them.
It's a trademark. It's a signature for you, man. I mean, haven't we seen T-shirts with just a mustache and a hat on it before, or something like that?
What happened is I got hooked up with HMF Exhaust, and they were trying to come up with a little logo. And Joe that worked there, me and Hans are out in the dyno room and out in the manufacturing and stuff, and my brother, he's in there. And with Joe, he's a salesman, and he's got an artistic flair. And they're making different logos and stuff. And he drew, I used to wear glasses. Well, I do read now, but I used to wear them all the time. I had that laser surgery. but I wore the hat and the mustache and the glasses, and he took him literally just a few seconds, and he drew that logo on the HMF Exhaust. And my brother says, that's it right there. No, Joe says, no. And he says, it is. He said, no, it'll make him mad. He won't like it. I said, he'll like it. And so they said, let's go. And Joe didn't want to, so Joe and Morris come to where Hans and I was, and looked at that, and I looked at it, and I started laughing, And anyway, it's that's been a blessing, because people know me because of the hat and the mustache, and so it's on the HMF Penland exhaust. It's on the dual gasser throttles. What else is it on? Different things.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild, the signature hat and mustache. And I imagine someday that they'll sell those as trinkets sometime at the races.
I don't know. It's people act like it's a big deal, but those hats are like $5.99 at Walmart.
It's not like you got some sweet style. You just get like a good straw hat to keep the sun off your head, man. And you're being rebellious and not shaving your mustache, and then all of a sudden, voila, here it is. It's a trademark.
It's not a Stetson hat or nothing like that. But, you was talking about wanting to talk about Pikes Peak or something.
Yeah. That's I do want to. I know we're getting close to the end, and we'll probably need to wrap things up here pretty quickly. But let's talk a little bit about the Pikes Peak, because that's something that always intrigued me, Mike. I've seen that on TV before, and from what I understand of that race, man, it's basically you start at the bottom of that mountain, that peak or whatever, and you ride to the top, and it gets, I guess, more exciting and treacherous and all kinds of crazy things the closer you get to the top of it.
Just you start in the middle. We don't start at the bottom, and it used to always be on the 4th of July. I've done it for 2 years, and I rode a Banshee in that, because that's the only thing. When you get 14,000, 110 feet, I believe, up, nothing else got enough power to pull you. And, everything you ride is just weak unless it's turbocharged or supercharged, and that's not in the rules. So I I think the first year I ran the Baja was 95, and I think this is 96. I think I did it 96 and 7. And that was like the third year that Pikes Peak had been open to four-wheelers. And I had a Banshee. It run almost 90, and I dirt tracked it.
Wow.
And I always won. I won the short tracks down at Daytona 2 different years during Speed Week.
Uh-huh.
And it was a lot of fun. The Banshee was quick. And I went there, and I didn't have enough power. Didn't know the corners either, to tell you the truth. That was, it was me not knowing. There's 100, if I remember, it's 156 turns and 13 and a half miles or something. And, it's kind of hard to memorize that. So the next year, Sam Coe had loaned me some Banshee parts, cylinders and pistons and heads and carbs and pipes. And the bike would run just a touch over 100, just 102.
Wow.
Yeah. But let me tell you something. Let me just tell you. There's some people that do Pikes Peak. That's the only race they do in a year.
Yeah.
They run Pikes Peak, and then next year they run Pikes Peak. And some of them other boys out there, they run these mountain climbing series. I don't know about them much, but they go this mountain and that mountain. They have a few a year, and that's what they do. And so a feller loaned me a dual sport bike, and I rode from the middle to the top. I put over 100 miles on that bike.
Wow.
Trying to learn it. The second year,
Mm-hmm.
and there's more than one reason I didn't do it again. Not just because I didn't win, but my bike was I would race so often Friday nights, dirt track, fairly local to where I live, and then I would get in the van. I'd drive the van home with the trailer, unload the Banshee, load up my either the Honda or the Wolverine. I started racing the Wolverine, and I'd leave Friday nights, well, sometimes it's Saturday morning, driving to a GNCC and get there a little before the race started, race it, then drive back home, maybe catch a little nap, and then go to church Sunday morning. But the Banshee was fun, and I did well on it. And it's what I called a work bike. I only worked on it when I had to. If the bike needed attention, then I worked on it. If it didn't need attention, I just rode it.
Yeah.
And here in the South, it's all that red clay. The red clay. And the bike had some stains on it, on the paint and stuff, where the red clay got on it. We sometimes we wouldn't even hose it off. Depends on how low on the track I went. And I got out there to Pikes Peak, and they have a very intense tech inspection, and pulled up and been waiting in line. And it's 100 degrees at the bottom of Pikes Peak. And on the 4th of July, both years I was there, we got snowed on and sleeted on.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how cold it is. And I pull up, and the fella says, I can't, I kind of laugh and go on a lot and tell little stories. And he says, I can't take it. And, we talked a little bit, and I said, well, if you're ready, I am. He said, and he got ugly. He said, I told you I can't take that thing. I said, well, why not? He said, look, he said, it's got clay on it here, and it's got stains on it there. He said, this thing's not pretty enough.
Yeah.
And my feelings were hurt. And I told my brother, he was with me, I said, if it wasn't over 1,000 miles back home, I'd just load up and leave.
Yeah.
And he said, you need to get some of this stuff from that shop. There's a shop he told me where. He said, you get some, it was called Honda Bright. And he said, you clean that. And there was a fella had some, and he cleaned the spot off about like a silver dollar on the fenders. And it cleaned up good. But, of course, when you're only rubbing a spot that small, you can make it look good. He said, you see that? I said, yeah. He said, I want the whole bike looking like that. I said, I'll try. He said, you won't try. He said, you'll do it. And so me and my brother there in that hot sun, and well, we're in the shade now, but it's still 100 degrees, and we get it, and it's about time to close the tech, and he let us come through. He said, I'm going to let you come through. He said, I want you to work on that bike all night. And so I went back the next year and Yamaha had sent me new fenders and new seats, and I took the frame and painted it. Just the bike looked good, I thought, and pulled up to tech it, and he was smiling and everything, and he's getting ready to sign off on it, and a feller walks by and says, "Aren't you the one that had all that trouble last year?" And he looked at me and looked at that bike and that man, and he got mad, and he said, "Look, on the spindle, the front spindles and the rear axle had some red clay stains on them." He said, "I want that off."
Oh man.
And I raced. I didn't do as good, and I'll tell you about that in a second. But I didn't go back. I just, they'd shot themselves in the foot by offending Chevrolet, and Chevrolet had sponsored it forever, and they were hunting for sponsors, and everybody was mad and tore up, and they were just taking out on us. But it could be on TV.
Right.
Well, anyway, I went there and raced, and like I said, the bike had run a little over 100, but the Pikes Peak hadn't. This is like the third or fourth year, and I'm trying to think of the word I want to use, but they had advanced so much from the year before to that year that everybody's bikes were running like that. If they had been a little better, I could have had a good chance. I'm not saying I would have won by no means, but I'd have done better than I did. But the bikes had just advanced so much, and they knew the track better than I did, or the course, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. And with the expense of that and being treated like children, I didn't go back.
Right. Well, I can understand that. That's too bad because, I mean, the race itself probably seems like a pretty good experience. You know what I mean?
Oh, it was fun. I mean, it was just, they had me in the magazines and stuff, and I had fun, met a lot of nice people, and it was really, really, really fun. You'd go up through there, you got to practice like the 2 days before, and you'd see snowdrift, Rodney, 12 feet high on the 3rd and 2nd of July and the 4th of July.
Wow.
Yeah, and people sitting on them. That's where they spectated from.
Wow. There's
corners there. You're up so high, there ain't no trees. There's that one place, if you went over the bank, and they don't have guardrails, it's so they can push the snow off in the winter.
Right.
If they had guardrails, they'd pack up on the guardrails, but this way they just shove it off the side of the mountain. And there's that one place they said you could go about 6,000 feet down.
Wow.
If you went off the curve.
Well, let me ask you this. What in the world's at the top of Pikes Peak that you would want to go up there anyway?
Well, it's just way up. It's real high.
It's just a cool place to be, huh?
Yeah, they got a little concession stand and stuff, and little trinkets, little souvenirs you can buy and that. And, hot chocolate and hot dogs and stuff like that.
Now, did you get a plant a flag or anything when you got to the top?
No, I didn't. But, there's some people, when they drive up there, Rodney, they get on the top of the mountain, they open the door and go to get out and fall on the ground because the oxygen's so thin, they pass out.
Really?
Yes, sir, they hit the ground.
Wow. Did you have any issues with that whenever you were riding?
No. The bike, the way Samco had the pistons, it was making so much compression. He told me not to crank it in Georgia. He said he was afraid it would burn up.
Really?
It was fun. It lacked, the Banshee lacked a little on the bottom anyway, but they lacked a little more on the bottom. But if you kept it up in the revs, it ran fine. Practicing, that's the first time I'd ever spun a dirt track. I spun it in one of the turns, practicing the day before that.
Wow.
But during the race, no, I just rode in one spot too long, and people said, "What spot was that?" I said, "Any spot on the track." Them people were really into that, and they started using this pin suppress, which me and you'd call it kind of like tar and gravel, but it wasn't. It was a petroleum product, and it's funny now. The whole course is pin suppress. Normally the tree huggers want everything paved, and the dirt people wanted dirt, but it wasn't. The dirt people were wanting the pin suppress, and the other ones weren't. It was just crazy.
Wow.
But now it's So we went from using dirt track tires or knobbies to using dirt track tires.
That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
pretty wild. Although, I mean, again, even though it sounds like it was a bad experience from a racing standpoint, just getting into the event itself, the whole experience itself seems like it was probably something pretty cool. So.
Oh, it was great. The 1 year was the first year they raced the tractor trailers, not the trailer part, but the tractors.
Yeah.
And, they had some unbelievable ones, and all these funny-looking cars that they raced, and they're so fast.
Now let me ask you, did you guys all race at the same time? Did they just send everybody off?
No, the from this time to this time, the motorcycles run, and from this time to this time, the ATVs run, and it's down to the second, and then when the ATVs, the last ATVs goes, something else starts, and
right,
those kind of things, and then I believe the tractors, the Peterbilts and the Kenworths and all that, I think that they were last. I think. Right.
That's like I have one of those come rolling up on you.
No. In Baja, everybody races together in Baja.
Yeah.
But up Pikes Peak, no.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, Mike. It's been a very interesting night, and good to get to know you. And I know that we lost internet connection a couple of times throughout, only for a few seconds at a time. But I do want folks to know that are listening. I do apologize. I am going to get that rectified soon. Soon as Quad Radio gets its sponsorship dollars in, we'll be able to start doing that kind of stuff. So if you know somebody who wants to sponsor Quad Radio Legends, you could aid and assist in helping me get the internet fixed out where I live in the boondocks. But regardless, Mike, it's been a special time to spend with you. It's special to get to know you, man. And there's so much more that we haven't even talked about you. And maybe we can get you back on here again sometime after the first of the year, and we can talk about and fill in some of those gaps, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions come up after tonight's broadcast.
Well, if you've got questions, I'll try to answer.
Well, Bob.
But I want you to know it's an honor and a blessing that you would call me and want to talk. I'm humbled by it, and I thank you. I really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you answering on such short notice, but like I said today, man, I was just sitting there and I was wondering what was going on, so I wanted to get the answer right from the horse's mouth itself, and there we go, man. We know that Mike's going to be racing UTVs next year and a little ATV action here and there, maybe more if things work out, right?
Yep, Lord willing, because I'm excited about the new Maverick. It's just hopefully the answer to everything I'm wanting.
There you go, man. I think it is, Mike. I think, like I say, there's, how they always say, and you have as much faith as anybody. When one door closes, another one opens. And, hey, man, we might be seeing that taking place right now. We never know.
Yep, hope so, Lord willing.
There you go. Well, Mike, again, thanks again to Mike Penland for being on hand with us. Mike, any shout-outs or anything like that you want to give before we let you go tonight?
I'm kind of dumbfounded. I just thank you for all the people that care to listen and talk to me at the races or call on the phone and want to talk. It's an honor and a blessing to be able to try to help folks, and it's such a lot of fun to be at the races. When you're an old fat hillbilly and people want your autograph and a picture and stuff, it's really great, and I am thankful.
You are very special, too. And, again, thanks to Mr. Mike Penland there for being on hand with us tonight for Quad Radio Legends, a continuing feature, hopefully, here on QuadRadio.com as well. Thanks to Tire Balls, the high-performance flat-proof tire inflation system. Contact your Tire Balls rep, Pat McGuire, there at 724-272-2998, or Tire Balls. Actually, you can email him at simply pat.offroad@gmail.com. Also, thanks to Jay Goebel and Pat, not Pat, but Steve and all the guys over at Impact Solutions, ImpactSolutionsATV.com, Factory Authorized Service Center for Elko Suspension. And again, thanks to Ian and everybody out there at SSI Decals for supporting Quad Radio and our efforts here from Quad Radio USA. And thank you, listeners, as well, for being a part of our Globecast this evening as we try to make history and bring ATVs into the limelight. For a Quad Radio Thursday, and of course, Quad Radio Legends. Mike Penland, I'm Rodney Tomlin. This is Quad Radio.